see it. And I think that yeah, I think that I expected to be scared, but because it's sort of like an action comedy, I wasn't as afraid as I thought I would be. But yes, I did see it at the time.
Okay, and in terms of this remake of Anaconda, a really good sort of idea for a bit of comical sort of humor, but they throw in that bit of comedy horror. So if you're a comedy fan, there's something there for you. If you're a horror fan, there's something there for you. And dare I say, there's always a comedy gold when Paull Rudd and Jack Black are paired together.
Oh yeah. I did a movie with Paul Rudd in the 90s, and I thought he wouldn't remember because, he became such a massive star. And not only did he remember our little tiny indie, but he kept in touch with like half the people. And during one improv, he did a callback to this silly little movie we did. But yeah, I was so excited to work with them. There's something about working with, they're both kind of comedic geniuses, and Paul Dane as well, but Paul Zahn and oh, Steve Zahn, Steve
And
Zahn.
see that, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, yeah. So I was afraid I couldn't keep up with them, but I felt like our scenes were just, I just slid in. I'm not saying I'm as good as them in the comedy world, but it was just the most exciting experience for me working with the two of them. And such such nice people who are so successful. I was studying them, like, are they going to be jerks now that they're like so successful? And they're just the nicest people and just the most fun to play with on the set.
And Ione, you might enlighten our audience. Where do you fit in this sort of world? Dare I say, what is your character? Where does she fit in? And what's her role?
I play Jack Black's wife, and it's kind of well written. Like we're sort of like the kind of couple that really admire each other, make each other laugh, have a warm relationship, kind of like maybe what Jack Black's real wife relationship's like, and my with my husband, like best friends, but also romantic. So I'm his wife, and I kind of bookend the movie, but we have some actually because the movie's like high comedy and really funny, but there's also kind of nice moments, and our scenes were actually really good. And of course, I'm secretly hoping there's a universe where Jack Black and I get to be a married couple in 1,000 movies together.
Okay. And Ione, how did this opportunity come about for you to get cast in this role?
Well, I was sort of friendly with the director Tom Gormican through my brother, and I'm an actor, so I was on some list apparently, and I had just recently moved to Australia, and that's always more convenient if you happen to live where they're filming. So I think the combination of being, an actor and knowing the director a bit and also being in Sydney, and I fit into the world pretty well. And Jack Black and I, it turned out we had really nice chemistry together.
Yeah, and Ione, in terms of filming the scenes after when you go sort of into the Amazon and hunting for a real, dare I say, anaconda, I know that was filmed in Australia, but in terms of the props, in terms of the logistics, in terms of the sets and the scenes, was that all shot outdoors? Was a big massive snake sort of put together, or was there a bit of green screen and CGI added in later on?
Mostly just outside, but a little bit of indoor stuff. I kind of like met the snake before they started shooting with the snake, and apparently the person who made the snake is like famous in that world of props. And I don't forgive me, I don't know the term for those kinds of things. But yeah, mostly just right there in the Gold Coast, which really is kind of like, I mean, it's not, it's like a kinder Amazon because I think you could get a couple leeches, but, and some mosquito bites, but nothing else will really catch you. I mean, I know there's snakes and spiders, but it's not as bad as people think.
Yeah, and Ione, in terms of this movie, we know about the comedic sort of humor, and it's a light-hearted movie. But the original Anaconda movie had some real sort of dare gripping sort of scenes, horrific sort of murder sort of scenes. In terms of this sort of scenes, is comedic deaths more humorous or more laughter, and dare I say, or just still something that would make you want to, for the people that is a bit squeamish?
Oh no, very squeamish. This one's going to be very, it's it's pretty hardcore.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because it goes there. It definitely goes there. Yeah.
Okay, and in terms of a cast playing those sort of roles and sort of those sort of death sequences and death scenes, are they enjoyable as actors and actresses to play? And in terms of those roles, do you sort of get a kick out of them in terms of meeting your own demise, dare I say?
Well, you usually in those scenes, it depends on the weather a lot. And all, like if it's cold and then there's like goo and fake blood and all of that stuff, it can be unpleasant. But it was pretty hot. So it kind of depends on what the real weather is like when you're filming the scenes, because it's just sort of physically, and of course how long the makeup takes. That's torture. On this one, all the other people really did more of that than me. But in the past, it's like if you're sitting in the chair for a few hours, it's pretty miserable getting stuff put on. But if you go for it and you're into the movie, you're just like excited to make it as good as possible.
Yeah, and Ione, in terms of the pacing of this movie, is it really rapid and sort of a pacing from the start, or is it sort of slow paced and then sort of builds up and builds up?
It's that nice, like both, where you've got the good, which is the ideal, I feel like, for any kind of actiony film. You've got some nice, slow, great interpersonal moments. And this has some like nice character arcs. And then just when you're like, okay, it goes into the action. And just when you're like, oh my God, that was so much, then it's a nice scene again. So I would say the pacing is both.
Okay, and Ione, before we came on air, we had a sort of quick chat, and you mentioned it's a busy time for yourself in terms of projects in the pipeline, in terms of your own independent work. You might enlighten our audience and our listeners about that.
Yeah, so I just put out a memoir called Say Everything, and it is a New York Times bestseller. If you don't know anything about me, my father's Donovan the singer. I had a great and have a good career, but really in the 80s and 90s. And I've always dated like kind of famous musicians. So it's a really good memoir. People love, they read it like in two settings. So that's a book that just came out not long ago. And then my podcast I've been doing for like 5 years with my husband, Ben Lee, Weirder Together is a really lovely, fun, good podcast. So I want to, yeah, people to listen to my podcast and pick up my book.
And I believe, Ione, you have deep connections with the country of Ireland, and you've visited there a few times.
Yeah, my father is Irish and Scottish, and he's been living in Ireland for like over 30 years in Cork. And so I love going there. And I've over the years been lucky enough to go a lot because I have an Irish friend and, I did a movie there a long time ago, another Christmas movie, but not as big blockbuster as this one coming out Christmas Day, Anaconda. But yeah, I love it. I can't wait to go back. It's just wonderful.